Welcome to BizJet TV, and today we're going to be talking about Flight Safety Foundation's latest statistical report on accidents, and we're going to look at what happened, the numbers, and we're going to be touching more on the subject of commercial flying, flying with the airlines compared to flying with private jets. My name is Fabrizio, Poli, I'm your aviation advisor. So let's just dive into the numbers. So last year in 2021, there were 22.2 million airline flights around the world, and there were 1.6 million private jet flights. Now, of the 22.2 million airline flights, there were only 44 accidents, while in the private jet space, the 1.6 million flights, there were 28 accidents in total. Now, I know I came up with a different number the other day, but they've just finished doing all the reporting for 21 now, and the official number is 28 accidents. So, now, 44 accidents against 28, but if we look at, the number of flights, and we run those numbers and we do the maths, we find out that flying with the airlines is actually 9.2 times safer than flying with on a private jet. But if we look at the cost, if we're going to fly, for example, between London and New York, first class, the cost is $10,000 for a ticket for one person. Well, if we're going to fly on a private jet, the cost is $150,000. So, we're talking, 15 times more expensive to fly by private jet and 9.2 times more dangerous to fly by private jet. So these are the real core numbers. Now let's look at the accidents and the cause of the accidents. Now, there's three main reasons airplanes have crashed over the last few years: runway excursions, loss of control in flight, and CFIT, which is controlled flight into terrain. Now let's look at the runway excursions. Now, a runway excursion is a runway safety incident when aircraft makes an inappropriate exit from the runway. Runway excursions include runway overruns, where an aircraft is unable to stop before it reaches the end of the runway. And runway excursions can happen because of pilot error, poor weather, or a fault with the aircraft. So this is the number one reason that accidents have happened, the runway excursions. A lot of these situations can be avoided by pilot training. I mean, if you look at, for example, pilot error, of course, errors happen because pilots are fatigued, sometimes because they haven't been trained properly and that, or there's poor communication between the two pilots. Those are all elements that can be addressed during selection of pilots and during training of pilots. The poor weather, being aware of the weather and knowing what to do in certain weather. I mean, I know a lot of passengers like the smooth landing, but sometimes a hard landing is necessary, in particular if there's water on the runway and that. You want to firmly put that aircraft on the ground. So don't always complain when your pilot comes in and does a hard landing, even when it's very, very windy. Sometimes you just want to put that airplane on the runway. And landing gears are designed to get quite a bit of a battering. Of course, you don't want it too much of a hard landing, but sometimes it is necessary and it is safer to have a firm landing. And then of course there's fault with the aircraft, but a lot of faults with aircraft can be avoided by maintenance, and in particular preventative maintenance. So that is another one which needs to be addressed. So these are elements that can avoid the runway excursions. Now, loss of control in flight, we talked about upset recovery training, which is a good way to prevent this from happening. And if you haven't checked my interview I did with one of the top people over at APS, you can check that video. I talk all about upset recovery training. That's really important. And control flight into terrain, again, pilot has to know where he or she is, and also communication between the pilots, interpreting the instruments and making sure that the pilots have been well rested. All these are things that can help to avoid the controlled flight into terrain. So again, pilot training is really, really important. And it's important that you hire the right pilots, that they've got the right background, and that you continuously give them training. You continuously get the preventative maintenance done in order to keep you safe. Because, that 9.2 times more dangerous stat is very, very worrying and very, very concerning. And if you're thinking of chartering a private jet, you have to sort of be very, very careful who you are chartering from. Make sure you ask questions about the training, look at the history of the company, how they do their training, how many times the pilots go to the simulator, what level of experience they have, etc., etc. These are all questions which are very important to ask, because you're going to be spending 15 times more by chartering a private jet than you would if you were flying with the airlines. Of course, the convenience of being able to leave when you want, and that is all there. But I think flight safety is ultimately the most important thing. When you get on an airplane, you want to be able to land on the other end in one piece. So that's really, really important. So these are, core facts that are out there, and it's important for you to understand this if you are looking to charter a private jet, lease a private jet, or buy a private jet. The airplane is an important element of the deal, but as I always say, so are the pilots and so are all the other factors around the airplane. This thing needs to be operated safely, and in order to operate safely is going to require money, it's going to require expertise. So if you want to have a chat, you can ping me a message. You go to website orvilleaviation.com and follow the instructions there, and I can book you in here for a Zoom call with myself or one of my colleagues here, and we'll sort of hone in on your needs private jet wise and design a private jet strategy for you. And that's all from me on this episode. Check the interview I did with the guys from APS about upset recovery training and pilot training. It's a very, very interesting interview. It gives you a bit more insight into the importance of training. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli on BizJet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.